At age 22, I gained my freedom. I came out to my parents. I told them I want to be with my girlfriend, but they could not accept me. I have so much of anger. They just can't imagine. I actually bought an air ticket and I just go a new place and stay with my girlfriend. When I come to this new place and new city, I really have so much of fun. And with this group of LGBT friends, they really accept me and love me and provide things that I need. It's like they are in Cantonese way of saying, 好有義氣. In this community, I really felt loved, accepted and free. But in the freedom, I don't really have a true freedom. The one thing that I'm not free of is touch. Anyone just put their hand on my shoulder, even my girlfriend want to hug me or even touch me, I really feel uncomfortable. Sometimes I even reject her. Because when I grow up, I actually encounter sexual abuse. Someone come near to me and touch me and did something to me. Then in my mind that I'm wondering that why I tell adult and they can't help me. Why no one stand up for me and tell me I did not do any wrong? Or just tell me that, are you hurt? But no one comfort me at all. When I grow up after these incidents, the first thing in my mind is dirty. No matter how many times I go to take bath or even use the best shower gel, I still feel that I'm so dirty. Men really not good. They just love or like woman's body. I really afraid of them. When I'm with ladies, I felt safe. That's most important for me. I felt being respected. I felt they will listen to me. I felt they know what I want. I read mainly the LGBT love story. When I read that, I'm like, wow, cool. This is a truth for me because I can love a lady. After 3 years, my girlfriend just left me. I thought I can be with her forever and ever. And because of her, I really let go so many things, especially my family. And I need to really hurt my family badly, but she just left me. My whole world is changed to a very dark color. Even my colleagues, they can see it and they care for me, and the most important thing, I know they love me. They just ask me, can I pray together with you? We just hold hands and they just say, God, please come and heal her. And when I close my eyes, I really can see a pair of hands came to deep inside my heart and pick up all the broken pieces and have a needle and sew it back. After the prayer, I felt peace, but I also know that this God is so real and I cannot play with Him. But I did not receive this God because I know if I accept Him or receive Him, I cannot be LGBT anymore. But a few years later, I just know that that is the time when I just go out at the altar call and I accept Him. I start to read Bible, and it's very difficult for me because when I read the first chapter, I cannot move on. When I saw this word say that God created man in His image and is good, I say, God, if they are good, why they hurt me? When I keep on reading the Bible, I realize one part is like God can heal the broken heart. For me to come to that point, is really need a lot of time. It's not like just blink, you are changed. No, I'm not that. Really many days, many years that I can be like, who am I now? I remember I met someone that I liked If last time I would just fall for this woman, but now I don't do that anymore. I realize that the attraction towards female, I can say I don't have that attraction anymore. Now I know I'm beautiful and I have self-confidence and I don't afraid of men. I can talk to them like just any normal being. But something is still not right. I just don't have the courage to call home. But my colleague actually encouraged me. After 1 hour, I just took up the courage and called home. At the end, my mom picked up the call. But do you know, it's so strange, but my mom knows it's me. I also didn't say anything because I do not know how to respond to her. I just keep crying. Until my mom said, 你唔好喊啦，你返嚟啦。When I told my parents, I told them, I'm so sorry, I hurt you all. First time, I saw my dad tears. But from his tears, I know he is so painful. But I'm home. One day, my sisters just come in front to me and say that, 姐姐，你唔一樣咗。I said, 有咩唔一樣? Then she said that, you are no longer so much of anger. I just realized something is changed. My heart have this freedom that I have not experienced before. It's a freedom of forgiveness. It's so powerful. Even today I'm dying, I got no regrets. My hope is for those who have not called home for a long time, those who have already come up to your parents, I hope you have the courage to call home and allow God to heal you, allow your family to love you. Please call home.
Come out and come home. So touching. Hidden behind the sexual expression of homosexuality, transgenderism, this is a deep, dark secret. Sexual violation, sexual abuse, molestation, exhibitionism, pornography. They hurt. They hurt because it changes the direction from what God had intended of the opposite attraction to the opposite gender because of this fear and how hurtful it could be. My wife and I have this great honor and privilege to get to know Pastor Sylvia. And now and then she'll remind me, she was one of the students way back in that room when I first came to Malaysia. And I still remember that night. She didn't come up to me. And the impression was about that meeting was that that's the first time I ate durian. Ceremonially. What do you mean by ceremonially? It's a matter of respect to the Malaysian culture. The past. This is one of the products. This is the only thing that will make everybody's eyes light up. Durian. I come from California, and whenever we talk about Malaysia, we talk about durian. And some of my short-term teams, I also bring short-term teams that may not be gender sensitive. They're just kind of ordinary Christians. We serve in Miri, Sarawak. We serve in the longhouses, and they always ask, is this durian season? I said, forget it, you're not really ministry-oriented, you're food-oriented. And I want to continue from what I left off before I talk about trauma and recovery. Reverend Thomas Wong. And he's the one who said, homosexuals are enriched people. He passed away 2 years ago. And during his old age, when I was in my 60s, the Lord had given me a gift, the gift of this man. Yesterday I mentioned that my father didn't know how to father me properly. Not that of anything of his ill intention, he couldn't give me what he did not have. And it's interesting. My wife, one day, when I was walking Reverend Wang to his car, my wife commented, "You see, Reverend Wang and Melvin, they have this similar gray hair. And their heads are big." They're like father and son. Wow, Reverend Wang said, "That would be my honor," in perfect English. I said, wow, that gave me an idea. I should ask him to be my godfather. But I'm not an ordained pastor, wondering if he will admit me. And he did. I'm very thankful for that. And he passed away 2 years ago. We always ask, how can we lift up the spirit of Reverend Wang of doing missions? So here we are, serving the LGBT because of his passion. If you come to my Facebook, I don't post personal things. I post academic things. And so if you're interested in what I'm interested in, come to my Facebook. But you realize I have pictures of some old people. These are the people who are important in my life, Reverend Wang. Now, you see his wonderful smile. Guess what he's doing? We have dim sum. And because I love Reverend Tryphena and Pastor Sophia, they realized Reverend Wang loved durian. It was his happiest times after we had Cantonese dim sum, and she would open a bag of durian chocolate, and he was eating away. So I posted this picture on my wall to remember him and the kindness and love of Malaysian leaders through the love of durian. I'm not promoting durian, but it's true. And the other picture is this old gentleman. This is the author, Frank Worthen. He was gay until he was 42 years old. And he said, "I'm not happy. What's wrong?" So he started to write on then, like social media. If you're gay but not happy, write me. And he used his term, "I'm Brother Frank." And he founded Exodus International North America. And he's a close friend of mine. And times he'll make funny stories. And he's very conservative, very, I would say kind of withdrawn kind of man, very introverted, excellent thinker, just finished high school. And we'll say, "Well, Melvin, in the old days, all the gay folks were coming together, we'd say, let's form a group. Let's call ourselves, the story is this, he says, formerly gays, why don't we call ourselves FAG? Oh, formerly gay people. So no, that was disregarded. So it became Exodus, and he's very humble man, and this is an important picture. Exodus closed down in the United States, I would say maybe 7 years ago, and 2 years before, Frank, and he told me, "Melvin, well, he lives on a ranch then, about 3 hours away from San Francisco. We visit him. I generally visit him before I come overseas for whatever reason." I said, "Frank, did God tell you anything? Anything new I should know before I get on my trip?" And he said, "Well, Melvin, I have this inspirational point. This is kind of a small stream of a brook. And I saw the angel St. Michael." I said, "Wow. What did he tell you, Frank?" He says, "I don't know. I didn't know what's happening." But then eventually, he realized the Lord had led him to found another organization to replace Exodus International before it closed down. It's called Restore Hope Network. I had the honor to accompany him. This picture shows that we are at the inaugural meeting of the Restore Hope Network to replace Exodus International. Frank is a smart man. I visit him. His ranch is at Stony Ford. Stony Ford is a really small town, maybe 100 people. And he lives on a trailer home. And then one day I visit him and he says, Melvin, I got something to give you. When an old man has something to give you, I took notice. He's so smart, his days were numbered. A year after that, he passed away. And I realized he knew what he was doing. And he searched and looked, and he picked this up, and he says, Melvin, it's yours. He's not Chinese. He's American. You know what he gave me? He gave me his name chop. This is a stamp. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a stamp that you have under his name. So you have part of his passion. Frank Worthen in Chinese. Remember this man. He was formerly gay, but the Lord changed his life and used him. He just had a high school education. And the Exodus movement from the United States came because of him. There's a lot of controversy, but he's a faithful man. I can attest to that. The parable of the lost sheep, the lost coin, the prodigal son, Jesus was being criticized. This man receives and eat with them, homosexuals and sinners, etc., as part of his life. Reverend Wang, he accepted visitors and remember eating durian because I love Tryphena and Sylvia and all the good Malaysian folks. Sometimes we carry stuff back to the United States. You know, durian have a very distinctive smell. When we're in San Francisco, the beagles, the little dogs will be sniffing. So sometimes you have to smuggle them across. Don't tell anybody. Back to the United States. My wife's birthday was in May. Tryphena and Sylvia, of the little small salary they had, they flew on their own dime to come visit my wife. Great love. We're kind of like family. So when they came, I want them to see Reverend Wang's widow, Mrs. Wang. She lives about 2 hours away, and we had dim sum together. She eats with us, myself included, sinners. Become a part of our life, sinners. And we visited her own house. This is a picture from the hanging from the former office. And they were singing, "Happy birthday for my wife." Isn't that a birthday wish came true? Two beloved family members flew all the way from Malaysia. Reverend Wang's widow, women power. I was the only guy here. Yay! Girl power. We eat together, we fellowship together. And then before we left for this trip, we also visited Godmother, and she insisted to take us out for dim sum. And every time we go in to see her, she'll say, where are you going next? I said, Malaysia. I said, oh, Malaysia. And she took out her notebook. And she says, oh, will you see Tryphena and Sylvia? Oh, yeah, we will. And lo and behold, she'll pick out her checkbook. She's 84 years old. She's widowed. She has fixed income. She doesn't earn anything. She took out her checkbook and started to write a check. And I say, oh, I'm so touched. You know, Connie is my treasure. We collect collections wherever we go. So she gave a check for us to bring to Malaysia to help the ministry to LGBTs. Tryphena and Sylvia has been on our team. Malaysians make excellent missionaries because Malaysian can eat with our fingers. I can. I go to India. I'm sorry. I go to seminary and teach. I've asked, may I have a spoon? It's anathema. You're not politically correct. You're not ceremonial Indian eating, like durian. So we brought the check over, and so on. So we're just following the footsteps of Jesus, like Reverend Wang. He passed away. His spirit of the Lord lives on. We are here to serve. Tryphena would text. After Connie would text her and say, yeah, Mrs. Wang gave us a check. He says, oh, please thank her. Sylvia would say, thank you, Mrs. Wang. We are kind of like family. Now, yesterday, Tryphena was saying we didn't almost make it coming to this conference because we were caught in the war zone of Myanmar. We're doing short-term mission work. I was doing sexual abuse prevention or addictions to crack cocaine and everything. And the war came to us. So I negotiated for our release, and the helicopter came. This is my wife's picture in the car. Why wasn't I taking the picture? Because I was texting the US Embassy and say, yes, thank you. The two choppers just came. And here it is, all the soldiers. Before that, there were mortars firing into the hills to prevent the rebels from shooting us down. I told them, they don't have land-to-air missiles. All they have is grenade launchers. The grenade launchers can launch maybe 30 feet, so don't worry about it. So we were like refugees, running to the helicopters and so on. This is my wife taking the pictures. And you see her picture? Water around her eyes. Because she was in tears, we were safe. And she texted Reverend Tryphena. And Tryphena texts back and say, I have tears in my eyes too, but in my heart. We are family. This man receives and eats with them homosexuals and turners. Brothers and sisters and leaders, have a meal. Eat with them. Share, break bread and break durian and eat together as part of your life. Serve them. All right, let's go back to the trauma and recovery, the sexual abuse. This is one deep, dark secret the LGBT movement didn't want to address directly. Most of them were victims of sexual abuse. Before they turned 18, this is the statistic. It says 1 in 4 girls, 25% of girls experience some form of sexual abuse. Maybe exhibitionism. Somehow this guy exposed himself. So this is really weird. It is weird. What joy do you get out of exposing yourself? But there has to be some female to witness that. So I'm not here to discuss that. And then molestation, touching, groping, and including sexual intercourse and so on. Human trafficking is part of that. In Phnom Penh, we have a ministry called Paloma School for Girls. We founded a middle school for girls. And come end of this year, we have a high school for girls because we want them to be educated and to be healthy so they don't have to sell the children for money so the husband or the father gets medication care. For boys, it's 1 in 6. When I was in Phnom Penh, Glenn Miles, I think Dr. Miles is from Australia, he says, Melvin, we need to serve the boys too. What about the boys? 1 in 6 boys. For girls who've been molested or hurt, they can tell somebody. But as a boy, can he tell somebody? But the perpetrator, the guy who victimized him, is a guy. Does that mean that I'm gay? So most of them will just don't say anything about it. Even if the boy was to tell his own dad, his dad would be so embarrassed and try not to think of it. So as a church, as we do sex education, we have to make sure we do sexual abuse prevention well. So how does it work? It has to do with the integrity of the child. What do I mean? The integrity of a child, the child has to know what is healthy. So when something is not healthy, then the child knows. Example, if you have influenza, if you have flu, you cannot go into the medical ward, search med ward to help your patients because you infect them. So you have to develop a good immune system. But when we raise our children, we don't think like that. In other words, if I cuddle my daughter, I hold her. When she's hurt, I comfort her. Her navigation will be true north. But if I hit her, the navigation is slowly sway because a hit across the face because daddy loves you. So that touch become bad. But she couldn't say no to that. So from that day on, the touch integrity was somehow loosened up. He said, wow, I don't hit my kids. But what about scolding? Especially when they're 11, 12-year-old, when they reach puberty. So we have to let our children know what good touch is, what is bad touch and strange feelings and unwelcome touch. So prevention of sexual abuse is very easy. All you have to say is no. The question is, how come it is so hard to say no? Because the perpetrator, they were formerly victims. They can see a victim coming 10 feet away because they were like that. So if you're lonely, you kind of look with low self-esteem as a little girl, or you're convenient, you listen to adults and never say no to adults. So when this guy touches you, you don't say no. When you become a victim, exhibitionism, you can't tell anybody. You say, why did he pick me? Must be me. So we blame the victim. So all you have to do is say no, but it's not that easy. And then we'll run or go to a safe place with other people and tell somebody. Then the question is, God forbid, if your daughter says, Mom, I was sexually abused, can you believe him? Believe her? It's not that easy. I teach counseling, therapy in China. And I want to make sure all my graduates, they're from Beijing University or Tsinghua University and all that. These are the elites of Chinese universities. So I asked them the question before they graduate from my class. I said, what is worse than being sexually abused for a girl? Sexual abuse is already bad. The answer to that is a final exam question. What is worse than being sexually abused is when the daughter tells the mom and the mom refuses to believe it. They say, oh, Melvin, you are kidding. Why wouldn't a mom want to believe it? Because the perpetrator is the younger brother of the mother. Can you get it? In Chinese culture, who is more important? My flesh and blood of genealogy, my brothers and sisters. Sometimes I take priority over that to my own children. So we betray the victim as my own child. We have to reverse that. Kids don't make things up. We cannot re-victimize or hurt them by not believing it. If this is our own family member, we have to confront it in truth. It will not be pleasant, but it's never the children's fault. So an adult will close the mouth of a little child and prevent her from talking. Now, I don't want to mess up your pure mind. The deep, dark secret, the underbelly of humankind is really, really bad. If I say something bad, it will stay in your mind. So I want to prevent you from having to go through that with me. But just one thing. The child would be very uncomfortable having been abused. And what would the perpetrator do? The perpetrator will give him a toy, a popsicle, chocolate, or a smartphone, and say, okay, we are even. And the child will believe it's even because it's a deal. You touch me, and I got something in return, we are cool. So the child will not say anything. Especially if the child is very lonely, very bored, and believes she doesn't have any value. And for the first time, this is a boy too, and say, oh, my father never gave me any attention. But this uncle in the toilet, he gave me attention. He touched me. Oh, for the first time, a guy touched me. So sad, yet so unavoidable. Because that guy waiting in the toilet has been waiting for the right child, the boy, to come along, because he was like that 30 years ago. It keeps on going and going. And some will even do this. If the daughter is the guy, the daughter will say, okay, the girl, don't tell anybody, or I will squash you like I squash a cockroach. I will take this cat and throw this cat against the wall, and you'll be like that. Wow, the girl will have nightmares. She would not want to say anything, because this is how the cat got killed by this man. So who can protect this girl? What makes it so hard to say no? Upbringing, in terms of authoritarian parents. Parents are always right. 天下不是的父母，天下無不是嘅父母。You're my daughter, I love you, so I'm always right, don't doubt it. Fathers are always right, authoritarianism. So what's wrong with that? So if an uncle said, you follow me, let's go to the toilet. And she will say, just follow, because you listen to authorities, you listen to parents or teachers. God forbid, let's hope no ministers, pastors, or youth workers. No. Parenting, obey adults. No is not an option. We want our children to disagree with us. Why is our authority so fragile? Why are we not confident to accept no from our children? We can. We cannot be always right. The family is chaotic. The use of profanities. And people will say, well, I'm not hurting anybody. I'm just talking. You know, if you don't like the joke, forget it. But then I don't have the freedom to not listen. But I'm not sure about Malaysia, but in Hong Kong, where I grew up as a kid, man uses profanity, profanities, swear words. And the content of the word is about female anatomy, to degrade them. So, why is that? Well, this is a long story, but I won't get into it. But there are women that will use the same profanities on their own daughter. So the daughter would be sexualized as a result and wouldn't think twice about it. Profanities is one of the door-opening mechanism to sexual abuse. Pornography at home, Pastor Tryphena talked about that, and at the age of 6, a girl laid on top of her and kissed her. You remember that story yesterday. Then the question becomes, how come this 6-year-old knows? Well, there's a lot of porn at the house. I know of family members that do that. Back in the old days, like 15 years ago, when big screen TV were very expensive, I have one relative that bought one like that. And the idea is to use that to babysit the children. They put the Disney cartoons and all that. When they come home, they can just turn on the TV and watch. But lo and behold, the dad forgot one of his porn videos were put in there. And what happened to the children? Wow, they didn't know that. And what would they do? They would try to imitate and try to see what it's like to have sexual intercourse. And innocence is betrayed. They say pornography is not hurting anybody. Is it really true? Patrick Carnes. He's one psychologist that I hold in high esteem. I hope he's still living. I really had breakfast with him, one-on-one, one day, because I'm learning from him. He's a Catholic psychologist, but he was a male victim of sexual abuse by the Catholic Church. He was the one who had the courage to say, no, I want to recover. So he wrote this book, Don't Call It Love. Sexual experience without consent is not love. Contrary to love, helping the sex addict. Wow, sex can be addictive? Oh yes. Sex is not love. Sex can be love, but you have to have love first. Sex follows, because love and sex is authentic physical intimacy. I want to emphasize the point physical. There is emotional intimacy. What does that mean? You can be vulnerable. You talk about things that make you cry. Oh, that's intimacy. But the listener has to resonate with you. The listener has to have a way to empathize. That's intimacy. Or social intimacy. We can be close. We talk about anything under the sun. So sex is only one part of the physical intimacy. But pornography, masturbation, or anonymous sexual relationship, it appears to be intimacy. But it's not satisfying, because it's the lack of authentic love. So what are the criteria for healthy sex? It has to be loving first, meaning the freedom to say no. And it's mutually serving. It's not only about me, but it's about someone else. I don't want to offend the gay community, but some of the gay community people would acknowledge. When they go on an app to find a sex partner, their satisfaction is to serve me, help me have a sexual experience, have an orgasmic experience. You serve me, I serve you. But emotional safety and exclusivity gives the sexual relationship satisfying. It has to be exclusive. It cannot be multi-partner or the lack of commitment. And this is very biblical. This is going back to what God had intended. So sexual abuse and gender identity, how are they related in sexual orientation? Number one, there's something, this is a Patrick Carnes, genius. He coined the term, there's something called sexual arousal template. What does that mean? When Pastor Tryphena was having the quote, sex play, she was the victim, but it was 6 years old. What can 6-year-old do that can be wrong? But when precocious children, when they are sexually approached, touched in a sexual way, they become aroused. But the 6-year-old children shouldn't be aroused. Maybe by pre-puberty, 10 years old, 11, 12 years old, when the progesterone or estrogen or testosterone happens, then there is sexual arousal. But there are kids who are very sensitive. So the first time Tryphena might have experienced a sexual intimacy was with a girl who's 6 years old. Oh, they're just playing doctor, don't worry about it. But did Tryphena have the option to say no? So that's not really sex play. Okay. So when that happens, that becomes the first impression of physical sexual intimacy. First impression becomes the sexual arousal template. Let me fast forward to something psychological. You know, some guys have a fetish. Fetish meaning when they see a woman's high heel shoe, they have an erection. Why is that? Dr. Hong talked about transvestites. In the old days, you go to a dormitory, girls who have all this frustration. What happened to my underwear? It was stolen by whom? By some guy. Now they don't have to steal anymore. They go to a recycle center and pick what they want. I say, wow, guys are so weird. What about underwears? Guys get a kick out of females' underwear. Wow. Because they are seeking for comfort and intimacy, but they are not very adept in socializing with women. So the next best thing to that of a physical relationship with a woman is through their underclothing. Now you start to understand. So the sexual arousal template that happens too early in their lives, that is same sex, become directional. Meaning same-sex arousal would become a default. Sexual exploration, curiosity, we talk about that. Children generally are not very sexually curious unless there's something prompted them. And if it's sex play, no coercion, freedom to stop, that's okay. Pre-puberty group. Now, we need to know, there's a difference between puberty or pre-puberty. The difference is this. When sex hormones started to rise in our bloodstream, feelings become sexualized. I'll say one more time. During pre-puberty, puberty, the sexual hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, will start to rise in our blood. Why? Biologically, we are ready to be fathers and mothers. This is what God intended. So the Laotians are very smart. They have 12-year-olds get married. But because they got married, they have kids, they live with their grandparents. And this is the way to go. So there's no porn, no masturbation, and the society seems to be happy. But can you have 12-year-old getting married? No. But in Laos, it could. So puberty groups, when play is play, because there's no sex hormone involved. So it may be impressionistic, but it's just play. It happens. Post-puberty is different. So-called play is actually sex play. The template of sexual arousal become activated and reinforced. I was in New York some years ago, and I was teaching a Bible school and something, and somebody posted the flyer outside. There was a bunch of kids. There are Latino, white, and African American. During the break, they came. And I said, well, I'm speaking Chinese. They said, do you speak English? I said, yeah, I do. And she said, I want to ask you one question. So there are 4 of them. So what's wrong with having group masturbation? And they're about 14 years old. They have the age of consent. Well, I say I think the group, that's the problem. Because their first sexual arousal, the first sexual excitement, the sexual stimulation, the sexual orgasmic ejaculation, the focus is same sex. The sexual arousal template has been formed. Well, what's wrong with that? Well, they're also attracted to girls, so they get married with a girl and all that. But then sometimes husband will know women are very complicated. I've been a psychologist for a long time. My wife is very complicated. Nothing wrong with her. It's just my limited understanding of how women operate. So there are times when a husband who become disappointed or feel lack of closeness, and when that husband is bored, defeated, angry, the group masturbation flashback will come, and they will go have a release. Oh, that's how it works. So this is a bisexual guy. Premature sexual arousal talk about that. It destroys innocence because we cannot have children have sexual arousal. But you say this is sex education. So the pedophiles, now later on talk about that, the pedophile will say, hey, we're loving your children. When they're young, we are showing them the freedom and the goodness of sex. This is sex education. But there is a time and place for that. So the church has to do good sex education to teach the children's parents before they have premature sexual arousal through the internet. Now, try this. If you go to Google, I'm sure there are a lot of Malaysian schools that will require students to do English homework, and they will say, well, let's talk about the Constitution of the United States. So you have to do a paper on the Constitution of the United States. So you have to go to Google and search for White House. And you want to have a picture on your report to make it more valuable. So you go to Google image and type White House. And the kid would try to get a good picture of White House. All of a sudden, there'll be a picture of a woman without clothes. That's not White House. But they pay Google money, so it appears under White House. What's the big deal? The deal is the adolescent boy would be distracted. It's normal to see women are sexually attractive. But how can he not click? He clicks it, and he went into a pornographic site for free. And he realized when he's working so hard and tired and all that, that picture of a woman without clothes is so arousing, so stimulating. It's better than coffee. He can last 2 more hours doing homework. So over the weekend, he works very hard. All you have to do is go to your cell phone and click, and you get an injection of adrenaline, porn. This is the reason why it's so addictive. So you interrupted normal sexual development process, it hijacked it. This is the hurt. If the abuser is male, for females, Sylvia already talked about, she realized it's not, didn't feel good. So what could be a victim, a woman who's a victim of sexual abuse by male? She'll shy away from male. So what happens to her need for emotional closeness? Not a male, female. You get that? So it is not intentional. It was a side effect or result of victim's sexual abuse. The victim being female, the perpetrator being male. Not all will result like that, but most will. The terminology I talk about, sex is not automatically equal to love. In the absence of love, where is intimacy? I have to apologize because I'm from California. The United States has exported a lot of toxic ideas through Hollywood. It's not only about the Terminator. We have Batman, or we have some. Right now, Disney is becoming more family friendly, so we have Spider-Man. So that's no problem. But have you noticed, Hollywood movies, it's very difficult to portray love. In the old days, I'm not sure if you're old as old as I am, and TVB and all that. In the old days, your black and white movies of Chinese love scenes, and then all of a sudden it becomes leaves falling. And then you have to imagine what's happening behind the tree. Hollywood make it graphic. If you love somebody, you have sex with them. So our kids will say, if you love me, you have sex with me. Oh no, I'm sorry, I apologize for the Americans. So I try to redeem the American value. So the American will come to Malaysia again and again and again to do penance against our Hollywood toxic culture and so on. I raise money for PLUC, and please support PLUC. Remember, Reverend Wang's widow have fixed income. He would also like the widow who gave the 2 coins at the temple. We wanted to go far and wide. Please support PLUC in the process. Female abusers, what's wrong with that? A woman whose mother is very insecure about her looks would want to look at her own daughter when she reaches puberty. And when the daughter's away to college, the daughter came home and realized her underwear were worn by her own mother. Wow. We didn't know women can be so twisted. Because the woman, the mother, is so wanting to be back to her puberty years when she was the homecoming queen, but her daughter was so good looking. So her daughter would shower, but her mom will be watching. Isn't that uncomfortable? This is kind of sick. Because the mother feels, despite she's 50 years old, the 25-year-old daughter's body was like that of her own. What happened? The father has been absent. So this is still sexual abuse. Sexual abuse victimhood is hidden secret in being gay. Pedophilia is the next human right. I'm honestly happy that the LGBT Foundation is finally speaking out for pedosexual rights. This is a new word. Love is gender and age blind. In other words, true love is without limits. Big love, 大爱. Sounds very good. The kid would say, oh, gender blind. Some people are child lovers, so you get over it. You cannot have homophobia. You cannot have pedosexual phobia either. This is about love, but it's also about sex for children. I'm gay, I'm lesbian, I'm bisexual, I'm transgendered, I'm pedophilic, I'm human. We don't never debate that. So he says, pedophilic, adult and child sex, it's just a way of life. So our kids have become the victim of LGBT ideology. And right now, March 14, 2019, the new term is called eroticizing our children. It's no longer about sexual culture anymore. It's about eroticizing culture. 色情化. It's not only about sex. Title IX in the United States, in public high schools, men who feel they're women can use women's bathroom. And this is the law. So when a girl becomes scared and come out of the women's bathroom to see this bearded man wearing high heels, you cannot be scared because you're discriminating. Oh, wow. All of a sudden it becomes law. So the definition of equal rights is a man can change in the locker room of a woman. The woman will say, well, no, but this is the law. This is about equality. What's wrong with you? It's like for homophobia. North Carolina's largest newspaper, Charlotte Observer, says women need to get treatment for the male genitalia phobia. If women don't like men in the changing room, so you have phobia. So you have to get re-educated or get treatment for that. In women's change room to accommodate men. Wow. We have to teach healthy sex education. Pedosexual people are people who can have an attraction toward people of all ages and sex. Sounds very good. They are not unicorns and they exist. They do exist and they do have feelings. You have to practice tolerance and not bigotry. So our mouth is shut. So when they come to get our children, what would you say? Don't say anything. Just let it be. This is human rights. This is equality. The stage of the progression of sexual violation, I'll just go through it relatively quickly. The first thing is there has to be something that inhibits the impulses. Inhibition reduction, generally with alcohol. Number one, sexual jokes. People, talk sexual jokes, then you laugh. Laughing is very loosening. Wow, can you not laugh? body comment, talking about your body, displaying sexual media, watching porn as a way of seduction, discussing private issues that are sexual in public, disclosure of personal sex life, and then expressing sexual desire. Wouldn't it be nice for me to touch? Is it okay to touch? Hug? Sexual touch and groping. Forcing hug and kiss from behind. This is your boss, or this may be your church leader. And, if I don't let him touch you, I may lose my job. And then it advanced to sexual pornographic phone calls and exhibitionism and naked photos and sexual intercourse. This is how it progresses. Well, the victim will feel dirty. They feel lower self-esteem. They blame themselves. They say, well, why did that happen to me? And you also have anger and guilt because this is not just. This is my body. When you feel anger, perfectly normal. You feel guilty, perfectly normal. It's not ever your fault. But the problem is you have body memory. Remember Sylvia's video? He says, nobody can touch me, even when she was living with her lover. The body keeps the memory. Touch sensitivity is a form of vigilance. What do you mean by that? It's PTSD, meaning this is unsafe, so I want to keep my body specially on guard. So anybody who comes close to me, including females, I shy away. So what is healing looks like? That one day Pastor Sylvia could be touched by females. One day Pastor Sylvia can be touched by males. One day Pastor Sylvia can recover to the point she can accept a hug from a male. Passive action, actively, back and forth reenactment of the things, or the victim becomes victimizer because of helplessness and control. It takes me half a day to describe that, but it's not the place for me to do so. The cycle persists. So, what's wrong? It violated body family. It violated sexual limits. It destroys trust. Now, this is the greatest pain. I cannot trust anymore because the person that I trust took advantage of me. The protector became the betrayer. The teacher is supposed to teach the girl, but then the teacher became the one who betrayed her. Then who else can she trust? She becomes isolated and lonely. Some will build trust to be broken. This is called grooming. This is another topic for another time, because children can be groomed by neighborhood perpetrators. They may have a group of them. Attachment disruption, there's mistrust, there's fear, sexual, physical, psychological, spiritual brokenness. It destroys the soul. That's why recovery program is almost always faith-based, where I cannot control myself. We believe there is justice in heaven. Somebody would be my defender. The AA group, the 12 steps, declare powerlessness, and then the higher power. Before America became secular, it was the higher power was God, the spiritual power. Transforming it, childhood sexual abuse, we have to have a safe environment. So again, the church has to be a safe place. And the counselor has to provide structure and regularity and punctuality. You have to always be there as you promise you will. Trust, remember? Give assurance that the traumatic experience of childhood sexual abuse will be understood. You have to say, I'm not you. I may not totally understand you, what you've been going through, but I hear fear. I hear hurt. Let the tears roll. And you have to say, this is not the victim's fault. Remember Robin Williams, the movie about Matt Damon. What is the movie called? Good Will Hunting. His line was to say, it's not your fault. Grieve and mourn the childhood that was robbed. Purity was robbed. Victim can begin to trust themselves again and trust the environment, explain what happened, but not necessarily to blame. Especially not to blame herself, because the girl would say, if I was wearing more clothes, if my hair was shorter, I would not be attractive. Encourage the victim to tell the stories again and again. Oh, But each time she cries, but I guarantee you, if you have a listening heart, the tears will reduce. Because it's in the process of trusting the helper to admit the sexual violation and helplessness and facing the pain. To express it is to tell the story, kind of if you have indigestion, it helps you metabolize it. How many times do you have to take antacid? As much as you need to. As many times as reduced for. This is Sylvia. I thank you, Sylvia, for over the years to trust me. Malaysian and excellent missionaries, because you guys speak excellent Mandarin, much better than mine. So I invited Tryphena and Sylvia people on my team. I have a lot of teams. Let's go to China and serve. We served the first time in Kunming, CWC, Child Workers Conference, where we are teaching orphanages, teachers, and operators. And then we're talking about sexual abuse prevention. Sylvia is the best candidate. But how could I, in my own goodness, and my wife will scold me, Melvin, each time you talk with Sylvia, she will cry. Oh. But then she understands, she says, and then Sylvia was being interviewed. I interview her side by side. If it is too much, I stop. But she went through the grinder. The American would say, oh, this is Wenzhou. The first time when they have a Christian LGBT awareness conference, she was on stage. Again, I was interviewing her. I think that's the last time I interview you. Today, she can come up to stay on the stage and talk about her sexual abuse. I don't find anybody who could do that up to this point. So she will continue to help me in terms of the sexual abuse prevention. Lastly, fear-based living. Pervasive trauma and post-traumatic manifestation, not necessarily sexual abuse, but abuse. They will be living in fear. What? They become perfectionists. They have simplified and extreme thinking, either black or white. If you're not my friend, you're my enemy. Ooh, good or bad. This is the reason why these people's emotions are up and down all the time. They have concreteness. They always want to be technically correct. They have to sense it, they have to touch it, or they won't believe you. Why? Because they can only believe in their own sensations. They live legalistically. They talk about fairness in relationships. The absence of full spectrum emotional expression. Psychiatry will say, is your emotion restricted or broad spectrum emotion? If you have it broad, then you're healthy. The serial order of functioning, not parallel. Okay, let me describe to you. People who've been traumatized, they will look at one thing like this. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. If you don't get the first thing done, don't tell me about the second thing. I get upset. Why? Because the bandwidth of the brain has been limited because of the hurts and pain. That's serial ordering. You know, people who are out of a box, who can do a lot of work, they think like this, altogether parallel. You can tell me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, no problem. You can go downstairs, go to the refrigerator, pick up a glass of milk and bring it upstairs to the child. Wow, there's too many stages. 1, 2, 3, 4. They get angry. But some people can deal with that. Lack of patience, impulsivity, anger, and rage. Anger is the hallmark of victim of sexual abuse. So Sylvia has been very angry, rightfully so, because of lack of justice. Lastly, rigidity and inflexibility in thinking. That's why they're perfectionists, they make decisions very slowly, they're procrastinator, oversimplistic life in the way of regimentation and routine. So churches who have victims, if they become leaders, they become legalistic, black or white. Flat priority setting versus a period priority setting, meaning priorities are like this, not like this. But they talk about like that. Addictions, they become gamblers, porn, food, alcohol and drugs, relationship cycle, dependency versus avoidance. You can never get close to them. Lastly, they have this survivalist lifestyle. A mother who've been traumatized, they are survivalists. Trust no one, love no one. They just want to do the right thing. We need to acknowledge the need for healing, for self-care. The victim have to rationalize generally and minimize the sexual abuse. From that to, it was not my fault. I can be healthy. Lastly, God is my healer. God does not look at my worth because of my flesh and blood. There can be spiritual renewal. There's such a thing called secondary virginity. Aftercare for trafficked girls. They've been sexualized. They've been in a brothel, working day and night. They've been brutalized. What value do they have when they lost their virginity? To the secular world, they're worthless. A girl is worth about $200. But when they recover, they will say, that was who I was. But because of God's love and people who love me, I can have secondary virginity. This is when I want to. Before, I couldn't say no, but now I get holiness. I can be self-willed for the recovery based on the love of Jesus Christ. Thank you very much.